Howdy there, people. It is Cursed Curator here with.
ADOS, I'm back. I haven't gotten kicked off yet.
Alright, so today we will be exploring the lovely early 1920s.
Yes, today we are talking about 1920 to 1923, which is very prime silent era, and it is not the. We don't have to worry about sound films changing everything yet. We still have, I believe, 4 more years before we even have to worry about the jazz singer. We don't have the Oscars. We are very much in that early uh, kind of it's not an early silent period, but it's a silent period before what most people consider some of the big, heavy hitters. Though we are still going to get some legends.
Ooh. Um, the first film we will be looking at today is a doozy. Is the Cabinet of, Dr. Caligari, which is very important, at least in my eyes, because especially because it is a relic of a very certain period of German history. Oz. Did you know this film was first filmed around the time of the Great German Electricity Ration?
That I did not know that. An important couple things is actually before we get too deep into anything, that is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I do want to hear more about that. Um, is there anything interesting that you know of happening in the early 1920s that is going to be affecting the media?
Well, at least in Western, or rather American, is the Roaring Twenties. Um, for
The early days of Hollywood.
for Germans, oh boy, uh,
Weimar.
yeah, oh boy. For the British and French, I imagine good times.
It's going good until things don't go good, which I guess is the story of history, is it not?
Yep.
Um, so there's some interesting things happening, especially in Hollywood. The film industry, we keep talking about how it's getting there, it's getting there. We're finally here. The film industry is here, and it's here to stay. And things are gonna start getting crazier and crazier. And I think as we get closer to 1928, when the Hays Code is created, we're going to talk more and more about this, but we're starting to see the first signs of, oh my god, old Hollywood is crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're starting to see people who are just like, we're starting to see things that are kind of crazy, kind of out there. They're very much not with the acceptable conduct of the time. The industry is going wild. People want to go to Hollywood now. People want to become big stars. We're starting to see that idolization of celebrities really start to kick in. And we're starting to see the birth of genres that we would actually recognize. And that brings us to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Sorry, I just had to give some context.
All good.
Um,
So something you'll notice quite quickly in the backdrops of this film is that any area with quote unquote light is this a painting of light beams. That's it. There's no actual light being used. Um, not only that, shooting with the camera was so hard to do here because no light, so he had to use unusual angles from getting any bit of light that was actually present.
And what makes that super interesting, at least to me, is it create not only is it a limitation, which we'll see time and time again that limitation breeds innovation. We're seeing that this limitation actually creates a very distinct style that would actually become very popular for German films and more importantly, horror films, which the Doctor or Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, I think we can both agree, is a horror film.
Mm-hmm. Um,
This is a very early horror film. Sorry, go ahead.
Something very important here about this film is that while so the person that directed it, of course, did not write it. The person who actually wrote it said it is based off a true thing that actually happened when he, or rather, what he presumed happened. Writer Hans Joannowitz, he claimed that when he was at a carnival one day, he saw a shadowy man lurking in the a man lurking in the shadows. Good lord! And he heard a girl was brutally murdered the very next day. He saw a very same man at the fucking funeral the very next day. Um, Yeah, he believes that it all actually happened, so he wrote about it and he turned it into a film.
Hmm. That is interesting because it's like it's not actually based on a true story, but it's based on
A lot of
what
assumptions.
someone thinks as a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Is this weird because Batman was not affiliated with her in any way, and he was just also at her funeral very next day? Kind of crazy.
The better question is why is this guy at the funeral?
Um. So actually, I believe he talks about that. Oh, he does not. I guess he was just there. People ever in town.
So couldn't the alleged murderer say the same thing about him?
Yeah, but this guy's not creepy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
That's yeah, yeah, fair enough. The plot of this film is actually really interesting because not only is it a very early horror film, it's one of the earliest true uses of subversive filmmaking that I've seen. This is a film about a guy who hypnotizes someone and uses them like a puppet, basically, to murder people.
Yeah.
But spoiler for a over 100-year-old movie, at the end they reveal that actually they're all just people in a mental asylum that the main character is hallucinating or perhaps making delusions of.
um, Something that's also very interesting to note. Of course, around this time, the Germans and the French were not on the best of relationships at all.
They just got done with a world war.
Basically, like, give for a modern context, it's akin to Russia in America, but Russia is like dead in the damn ground, and basically like that. Um, but this is one of the weird times where a German film would play for several years in a Paris theater nonstop.
So this film was quite popular then.
Yes. It bridged the divide between Germans and French, I guess you could say.
It is an entertaining film. I guess that we should that kind of brings us to the thoughts of it. I quite like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, though it is very slow. I think that is aided by the very beautiful imagery and backgrounds, but I'm curious to see your thoughts on that.
I'm biased.
Yeah, I forgot that this is very much your cup of tea. What did I? I
So
gave a Cabinet of Dr. Caligari a 9.
I'm going to one up you with a 9.7. I was really that guy and to give my own people a solid 10, but no. It was a good film. And honestly, if I'm being very, very hard subjective here, I thought the plot of film was good. Yes, it was slow. I feel like they could have done a little more to really get me in there.
It's a little slow, and I think a little more needs to happen before I would be willing to give it a 10. Obviously, it's a little too late now. This is what happens when you critique films that are older than any living person.
Yep.
Uh, or well, actually, I think there were like 5 people who were alive when this film was made. We can fact check that later. Either way, did you have any closing thoughts on Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
I want to
Because I have one
say
last thing.
that this film is really important to mind people because, well, it's from an era where things were really, really tough, and I'm glad it was preserved.
Yes, this is a thing that we're going to be talking a lot about because we're in an era where films are people. There's a lot of interest in films from this period. Relatively speaking, but the preservation isn't really there. So we're seeing a lot of films that people want to watch, but people simply cannot watch.
Ooh.
And I think that is really tragic. And we've talked about preservation time and time again, and we will talk about it time and time again once more because it is such a big problem. And it is sad that a lot of films, as we get towards the later 20s, we'll have a lot of films to talk about that are like this. But there's so many films that no one will ever get to watch because every known copy is gone.
Mm-hmm. Um.
And I believe Caligari was almost one of those movies.
Whew.
Uh, The one thing that I'm glad that we have it preserved, the reason I bring that up is because this film, it was very influential and helped popularize German expressionism into the film scene. Um, Currently, or as of 1920, the effects are not huge in the Western sphere, but as we start seeing film schools become more and more of a thing, film professors will talk a lot about this movie and transfer that knowledge to the next generation of filmmakers, and you will see a lot of expressionism in the coming decades.
Ooh. What's our next film? Oh, here's our next film. It is Way Down East.
Yes, Way Down East. This is another stupidly long Griffith film. Uh, Now that you've seen a couple of his films, actually, did I mark this as essential? I did not. You've seen a couple of his films, I know that. What do you think of Griffith as a director, other than the racism?
He's one creepy ass motherfucker.
You got a problem with Griffith?
Yes, he is. I especially have problems with this fucker because one, he's creepy. Because he chooses to just pick the creepy background sets, and I'm not scared of him. I'm scared. I'm like, that's fucking creepy. How can people watch this? Like, yeah, this is a banger. I just leave that bitch.
Yeah, these films do look like something you'd find if you opened up a television at 3 a.m. From a different dimension. Watching Way Down East, I don't know if you watched it. It is, frankly, not super important. It is
I
another Griffith film. It's very long, it's very dry.
I peeked at it. I got bored. But I do have some fun facts. I have some fun facts indeed. So
Hit
during
me with them.
so during the ice flow scene, a fire had to be built literally underneath J.W. Bitzer's camera in order to actually keep it warm enough to actually run. It was so cold.
Wait, so they were actually in an ice river.
Yes. Oh, and another fun thing is that D.W. Griffith was frostbitten on the side of his face, which bothered him for the rest of his life, according to Bitzer.
Okay, so this is that thing that we just talked about actually. Uh Old Hollywood is crazy. They will just do anything. There's no thoughts for safety. There's no thoughts for like, hey, this might kill you. It's just like, fuck it, we need this shot. I'm actually looking at photos from of Griffith, and you can actually, if I'm not mistaken, I could be entirely wrong, but if you look at the photos of Griffith when he was older, you can actually see a little bit of the remnant, like the scar.
Oof. Um,
Yeah. Oof.
Here's another fun fact: is that this is a film where we would not see the credits on the print at all, but the film goers were provided with a printed program in which all the important actors were identified in the order of their importance in the actual story. So that's kind of neat to me.
Interesting. Huh. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's really cool. I have seen this film and I didn't like it very much. Like I said, it is slow and it drags on and on and on. It just never ends. And the craziest thing is, I believe, yeah, part of this film is lost. The original length, if I'm not mistaken, is 2.5 hours. That is a long boy. I, frankly, with a lot of Griffith films, don't believe that the content is able to keep up with the runtime, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of a film that wastes so much of your time. I want to like it because Griffith, as much as I will insult him for being a bigot and for frankly making his films really weird, he is a talented director, or was. He's dead. Uh, and that is really cool. It's just I don't like his style very much. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Me, it's just a easy five.
Yeah. It's not a whole lot. I don't even remember what the film is super about. I believe it is about a woman. who I should have said this at the beginning. My apologies. About a woman who gets married to a guy, but they're not actually married. She gets pregnant. He leaves her because drama. She finds a new guy. There's a whole it's very melodramatic. It's very much one of those tragedy stories. The ending, now that I'm remembering the plot, is a little bit more satisfying, or as far as a Griffith plot goes. But it's still just a 1920s tragedy, which we will see. For some reason, the 1920s is filled with tragedy stories.
Which I mean, if you think about the time frame, it really does fit. It actually fits the narrative going on after a certain World War.
That is fair, and we will see that the World War One really affects media for years until the next World War. So next up on our
This
list,
one
we
is a
have.
favorite of mine.
Oh, we're gonna disagree on this movie. Within Our Gates.
So this film is uber important.
This is like the response to Birth of a Nation.
Yes, it is a very early anti-racist film. So what's very important to know is that this is the earliest known surviving film directed by an African American. This is a very important piece of history.
Also, the cast and the writing team, it's all African Americans pretty much, and a lot of mixed people, which is lovely, and
Ah,
I do
yes.
appreciate that.
As a fellow mixie, I'm so
Mixed.
appreciative.
Uh, this one, could you explain the plot? Because I have watched this and I still,
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest, this film lost me. I really tried to pay attention to the plot, but it is
So it's about a
hard.
woman named Sylvia Landry who is visiting her cousin in the north, where there is, of course, less racial prejudice than in obviously the South. Duh.
Who
Um,
would have thought?
but when it's so weird, it's when she gets there, it's a whole bunch of shit going on where her cousin was tricked into something, where it's a very odd situation and has to abandon her and stuff. And now he has to raise money to help her out of her situation, which is from 5Gs, which is nothing today. Well, it's still a lot today, but back then that's fucking so much damn money.
That's a crap ton of money.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. This is a film where I can say I I like the intent. It's so important, but good lord, it could have been better.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad. Okay, that's basically my opinion. I think my rating's gonna be a little different, but yeah, this film was important, and obviously the message is good, but I don't really rate films based on their message because this film is a mess. This film is a hot mess.
Yes,
And it is okay, so that's the basic plot. They're trying to build a school or something, I think, right?
something like that.
Yeah. The way they get around that, though, is I'm pretty sure this film has a non-linear plot, or at least
Yeah,
if it isn't non-linear, it sure as hell felt non-linear. It just jumps around from character to character to character, and then there's just sections where a guy is literally preaching to the audience, which is
yeah.
just, you didn't have to do that. There's so many better ways you could have gone about that, even in the silent era, especially in the silent era, than have some guy talk at you. Uh, One of my biggest problems, I think I left in the review on my letterbox, is this film has an unholy amount of screen titles, or sorry, title cards.
I'm
That's the word I'm
glad you
looking for.
mentioned that because fun fact, every single one of them in English were lost. There are no surviving copies of the English title cards, but fortunately, the Spanish one had title cards, which were just translated back and forth.
so, so we don't have the English ones, but we basically have the English ones.
Yeah, it kind of sucks all the originals were gone. So there's a bit more. From what I understand, there was more expression in the English ones in comparison, and so some of that was lost. I'm like, whatever, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I can see how that might degrade the original experience, but I still think that
Better than nothing
It
for
was
real.
too much. Even if we did have the originals, it would be too much. I
Yes.
I I could not get into it. I hate to give it this rating, but I gave it a 4.
As a person of color, to a degree, um, I have to rank it high. It's so important to the history. I think it an 8 and only an 8, just because. Well, think like this, Oz. It was lost until the early 1990s. It was gone. It was recovered
Yeah,
in a film oteca in Madrid, Spain. So that was a whole thing, which was it's at the committed. It's based on the history. It's so important.
that's fair. I think that. Oh, sorry, I peaked. I think personally, I think it's just down to personal preference and how we rate things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I tend not to rate things based on just purely messaging significance, but that's just me and my weird way of reviewing things. So I am perfectly fine with that rating being different. Not that I'm gonna like beat down your door if I disagree with you. This is a film I did not watch, but I think you watched actually.
Yes,
The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
this one was interesting.
You're gonna have to lead the charge on this one. What is this film about?
It's set in Argentina. Oh boy.
Okay, okay, sorry. That is really random.
So it is about a man named Julio, who is a patriarch
Hmm.
of a wealthy family. He has some daughters, and they're going to be wedding off one of them to to a Frenchie and one other to a German. Uh,
Hmm.
so this is before the German or Argentinian like real close. Well, it existed, but not that heavily until a certain World War. Um, so he
The
prefers a French guy.
association.
He prefers Frenchie, but it's a whole thing there, and there's some divorce going on. It's a whole bunch of drama and some suffering and shit. It's a meh. It's a meh there. Mm,
So what I'm hearing is this film has very little to do with the actual Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse.
yes. So Rudolph Valentino signed on to this film for $350 a week, which would be less than Wallace Beery earned for his small role as a German officer. That's a whole thing there. These are some fun facts I'm just tossing out at you.
That's all good. And more knowledge.
So Alice Terry wore a blonde wig during the whole film, and she and Rudolph Valentino spoke French in their scenes, made it sound more offensive to lip readers.
Oh, yeah, I forgot because there's a lot of different methods of handling silent dialogue. Some people would just mumble gibberish, especially in comedies, but in drama films, they would actually just say the line. So I
This one's
find
a
that
little
very interesting.
controversial, but
Oh no.
people are all dead. Who cares? In excuse me, early on in the intertitle says von Hartrott had reared his sons to respect the teachings of his fatherland. The picture behind the text is one of the statues of Kaiser Wilhelm II. On the Duchess Eck at the Koblenz, excuse me, the conflicts of the Rhine and Mosel rivers, excuse me, the statue was destroyed by the Americans in 1945, but replaced in the 90s. God damn Americans.
Okay,
So it's a film that shows off the original fucking statue, which is so important.
that's cool. Uh, I that's a interesting bit of preservation right there.
The fun part about this is when you show me off the that one German film, and I said like, "Hey, that's a statue. It's gone now. That's a bunch of things that are gone now. This is so important."
Yeah, that's I never even thought about that really. It's about how temporary everything is that really, if you think about it, a lot of things that we see in these old films just the buildings aren't there anymore, assuming they were filmed on location, which a lot of silent films were. You know, a lot of
One,
things just are gone.
this is the last fun that I want to talk out here. So there's a kiss scene that originally took up 75 feet of film.
So I don't know how compact film was at the time, but roughly that's a really long scene.
To give
That
you
is excessive.
to give you a reference, 450 feet of negative was filmed in total, which is around 85 miles of film.
Oh my god, you're telling. So that was a scene
Yeah,
of just them making out.
making out and doing tango.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What did? Because again, I haven't seen it. What did you think of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse? Would you recommend I watch it?
I recommend it. It was a good watch. I mean, it wasn't the most greatest thing ever, but it was good enough to keep my attention. It was overall it was a very dramatic plot line, which I did not expect from a movie of this time period, but it was dramatic.
We're gonna see some very very dramatic things coming over the horizon. What is
Indeed.
our next film?
1 second. Our next film is The Kid.
This one's gonna be much easier to talk about. This is a Chaplin comedy.
Our boy Chappie back at it.
Yes. I think this is before he married the 13-year-old girl.
Oh God.
Yeah, yeah. The past is kind of messed up. Uh, kind of, it very. This is a really, really sappy comedy, and I love it. I know you have fun facts, but I'm going to beat you to them because I already know some of these. Uh, this film is about Charlie Chaplin's the tramp discovering a child who has been abandoned and then raising the child, and that's basically the plot of the movie. Uh, it's not too deep, but do you know that it might sound creepy? As far as I know, it wasn't. Charlie Chaplin during the filming would take the kid that they casted for this out like to carnival rides and have lunch with him and
That's
things like
wholesome.
that. Yeah, very wholesome. Do you know why Charlie Chaplin was doing this?
Were they rizzing them up?
Charlie had just lost his kid.
Ah, okay. Ooh.
No, yeah, it's far more sad and innocent than that. Now, something it could have been something creepy, but again, from all the descriptions and everything I've read, it seems very much like he was just coping with the loss of his own child, which you can get a pass on that one, Charlie. I know you've
Yes.
been dead for like 50 to 70 years, but yeah, it is very depressing
This
when you
is
think about that.
a very important. So the kid was super important. This kid, mind you, is super duper important to the entire industry, um, for kids in general and young actors. Um,
Mm.
you're like, hey, it's just some no-name kid. No, because of this kid, his mother and stepfather blew all of his money before he reached adulthood, which would introduce the Coogan Bill, which would ensure that parents would never be able to squander their kids' money ever again like this.
That's always something I've wondered about in the industry. When I was working in it, we didn't work with kids, luckily, so we didn't have to think about it because working with kids is a nightmare.
Yes.
Uh, he's like, yeah, who does the money go to?
So I'm presuming because so it's said that Coogan and Charlie were close. I'm hoping that Charlie actually had like a whole thing here actually helping this happen because I still see how the kid could make this happen without Charlie.
Yeah, no, I think that's really fair, and that is interesting that this film actually led to something changing in the industry because we're starting to see the rules are being set. You know what I mean?
Yes. This is also Mr. Chaplin's first ever film that he directed that is a feature film.
Yes, this is his first directorial feature film, and I would say he killed it.
Mm-hmm. Um,
This is an amazing film. This film actually made me cry when I first watched it, which is saying a lot. I don't really cry at films much, just a personal thing. This
yeah.
film was it killed me. I was a little baby.
One thing I do find that is interesting here is that the next time that Chaplin and Coogan would meet for the last time ever would be 1972.
Oh,
Yes. Um. Oh yeah, Mr. Chaplin was almost cheated during this whole damn film. the company, the production company, they for paying by paying him for the 6 feet of film that that was used, which was about $500,000. They didn't want to do that, so Chaplin said, "Fuck you." He took the unfinished film out of state, and so his company was able to get agreed upon at 1.5 million. Oh, and plus even more.
I had heard, I don't know how true this is. I heard he had to smuggle the film negatives out of wherever he was,
Sounds about
or
right.
maybe that was for the circus. Either way, I know Chaplin had to smuggle film out of
Oh,
somewhere.
this is so wholesome. So one other time, so I don't believe actually they might have met. Coogan contacted Charlie because mind you, Coogan had no money by this point because his parents blew everything. He said, "Hey, Mr. Chaplin, can you please give me $1,000?" Without question, he's gave it to him.
This is also the period. I don't know if this is. I don't know when this happened. I don't know if Unite Arts this thing, so that already happened. There was a time where Chaplin was making $1,000 a week, which in 1920s money is absurd.
Ooh.
That is, I believe that made him the most well-paid person, other than a ruler, in the world.
It's so
At
weird to me.
least outside of like business owners and things.
Yeah. It's so weird to me how much Chaplin would go on to be influenced by Coogan, though. It's this no
Yeah,
name kid, but Charlie made a whole movie based around him, like later on.
yeah.
Um,
And like we said, Coogan is the child, correct?
yes, Jackie Coogan.
Yes, I was making sure we are talking about the same Coogan. Uh, yeah, it is interesting again because Chaplin did. I hate to say use the kid, but the kid helped him cope with his own loss, and I'm sure that's why they were so close.
Yes. One thing that's also super interesting to note is that this is actually the first time I assume is where we'll see a very adorable kid grow up to play as a extremely weird and kind of ugly character later on. Jackie played an adorable kid, and later on, when I believe it's the first iteration of the Adams Family, not 1964, would come around. He would play as the creepy Uncle Weird Fester.
Oh, he plays. That's a really strange connection. I did not think about that.
Yes, this is a very odd time because it's kind of weird thinking that this random no name kid who basically would kind of set it's like not a president because nobody really cares, but he's the first, I guess. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. What did you think of the film itself?
I don't want to give Chaplin this, but I want to give it to him. This is a 10.
I gave it a 9, I believe, because I'm very stingy with my tens. But if I were to give any comedy a 10, it would be this one. This is a. I'm not that I have anything against comedies. This is a great film. Even if you aren't into silent films, this is an easy recommendation. It's so watchable. It's emotional. It is very funny. There are some scenes that are pretty clever, like when Chaplin and the kid start breaking windows, and Chaplin starts offering to fix people's windows. That's an amazing scene. There's some really funny scenes about how poor the tramp is. It's a good movie. Cannot recommend it enough.
You know what's really cool about Chaplin is that so people often forget that he had a bunch of damn kids. He had a lot of kids. Um,
He was a rich guy in the 1920s. It came with the territory. Also, being a
yes.
terrible person came with the territory.
So recently, just literally last year, his daughter would die. Um, she died in July of 2023. Interestingly, her mother would literally die July the 11th, just about like I believe like I don't know the exact date, but I do know it's July 11th, but I don't know the exact year. It was like 40, 50 years before that.
That is crazy. Wow.
Yes. But his bloodline is still
Clearly, it's
around.
the reptile aliens. No.
His bloodline is still around, and he has a one daughter still around. I believe it's like 70, 60. Yeah, he has a bunch of kids that are still alive. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, he was he was getting at it even when he was old, which is kind of weird to think about. So we're gonna go on to a film that's not so good. Orphans of the Storm.
Oh.
Hey, there's the poster. Uh, This is D.W. Griffith's attempt to deal with the French Revolution in a film,
Oh no.
which, for some reason, in the early 30s and in the 20s, for some reason, there was this weird fixation about making movies about the French Revolution. I don't know why, but there's so many films about the French Revolution, and frankly, this is not one of the good ones. Griffith is showing off his weird political bias in this film because the message of Orphans of the Storm seems to be, at least from my perspective, that, yeah, all those rich people were terrible and whatever, but do you know who also really sucks? Poor people.
Yikes.
Uh, yeah, it's not that direct. You could also interpret it as saying that revolutionaries can be just as dangerous as the tyranny they fight against, but frankly, after watching the film, I feel like the message is a little less nuanced than that. Other movies about the French Revolution definitely, even in the next few years, have that kind of nuanced message. Griffith is just being Griffith again. And
This
let me see. Is this another long ass Griffith movie? Yep, I can confirm it's also 2.5 hours.
this film has a bit of a dark behind the scenes thing, which is really really sad.
And also not surprising.
This is one of the things where I believe this is the first one we can make an account for right now. Is that an actor would die while on set. William J. Walsh, while he was leaning up against a prop rifle, it went off and killed him. While it had a blank cartridge, it still killed him.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to mention because blank firearms, or firearms with blanks loaded them, excuse me, they're not harmless. They can still
Yes,
kill you.
at point blank, it
Uh,
can result in injury or death.
I remember when I was a kid, I went to a county fair because I was a hick in the middle of nowhere. And I remember there was this demonstration that stuck with me because you hear people talking about movies. Oh, it's a blank. It's a blank. This guy showed everyone he had a blank. Right, he fired it at his co-host or whatever at far enough away that he didn't even feel it.
Yeah,
He loaded another blank cartridge point blank at a can, and the thing split in half.
yeah. There's been a whole slew of actual trials going on recently due to prop guns, and it was issue then, it's issue now. Actor Brandon Lee was actually killed recently, just last year, with a prop gun, and
There was also was that Rust or was that a different
that's a different
film?
one. The
Yeah,
Rust thing
because
happened
Rust
back in
also
2021.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
though that wasn't with a blank. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and this is one. So I hate the person that is who got charged for it. I hate him as a person, but that was not his fault. That's not his fault at all.
That's a prop master problem.
Yeah, he shouldn't be charged for that at all. That was so stupid.
The whole thing was a pointless waste of life. But yeah, Orphans of the Storm, again, old Hollywood was crazy. People were dying all the time. When we get to 1927, we are definitely going to be talking about a film that fits into that category of old Hollywood was nuts. I think here, you see a lot of extras too in this film. A lot of extras, like an obscene amount of extras.
Yeah,
And this film looked expensive. It probably was expensive. I didn't like it that much. You probably got that hint from the way I've been talking about it, but it's not there for me. It's just another Griffith film, and I feel like he had his moment in the 1910s, and he's lost his spark, so to speak.
I can agree with that.
Next up, though, is there anything? Oh, this is a nice film. I like this film actually. The Phantom Carriage.
Ooh, um, I'm sorry. The moment you speak about the French, literally right now, I'm sorry. I did this mention this. I don't like to talk about actual politics while streaming, but there's actually a protest in Paris right now. This blew up.
What a coincidence.
Oh yeah. Oh, thousands taking the streets of Paris. Oh no.
And we
Oh,
have just dated this stream.
the girls have their titties out. I said it.
I'm gonna hold my tongue and not make a joke. Uh, but now that we're done with the French, hopefully. No, wait, is there any more French films? God damn it, there's another French film. Uh, The Phantom Carriage, this is a Swedish film. Uh,
Ooh,
this this is a moral tale. It kind of reminds me a lot of oh, Christmas Carol. That's what it reminds me of. It's a story about a drunk guy who's kind of bad at everything and kind of just a terrible person all around, drinking himself to death and then meeting death. And death basically tells him, like, hey, I'm just going to show you how you messed up.
bros is like
And,
me for
you
real.
can fix it if you want.
Bros literally just like me for real.
Relatable protagonist?
For once.
Yeah, where's our relatable protagonist, guys? But I this is an interesting film simply because it uses some pretty innovative special effects for the time. As well, I like the plot. I think it was overall quite a good film. I don't remember a ton about it other than that cover, which is on the slideshow and is amazing.
Ooh.
What did you think of the Phantom Carriage?
So what did
Actually, did I mark
I
this as
think?
essential? Yes, I did.
Give me a second. Like I told you before, I was actually gonna order something while I was
Yeah,
in this.
yeah, that's all good. I can keep
No good. I
blabbering.
all good. I just placed the order, so we should be good. That's 130. Oh, it's 130 and 30 bucks as a payback. But I'll send you
The
that just to
pizza debt.
let you know that.
Yeah.
So Phantom Carriage, I think it was really good. The Phantom Carriage. Honestly, the only thing I could really complain about was if it wasn't. I wish it was made sooner. So it was much slop until up to this point. Is that mean to
Yeah.
say?
No, no, no. That's fair. It's hard to get into the early days of film. Aren't you glad that we're finally in the 20s though, and we are finally getting to good movies? Like these are, regardless of the year that you grew up in, you can appreciate these films if you can put on a bit of a historical lens just to get past some of the weirdness and the silence, obviously.
There is
But
one.
this is
Continue.
go ahead.
Sorry. There is something so important about this film is that it defied the censorship guidelines of the time. And not intentionally.
Oh,
Um, so it should have been heavily censored due to its supernatural content, but it just wasn't. On the board, so the board
oh,
of censorers decided to leave the film intact rather than a dispute with Selma Lindgrove,
mm. Swedish names.
who I believe was a super big name in Europe and would have completely slaughtered them because you know how rich she was.
Huh. Interesting.
Yes, it was one of those times where she had fuck you, like a woman had fuck you money and left the film alone.
I dig that. That's pretty cool. I can appreciate that about the film then, that it kind of just said, no.
Mm-hmm. It's so fucking cool. I actually love that. Here's a side fun fact: the Norwegian heavy psychedelic rock band We, yes, their name, made a live soundtrack to the movie while screening it in the atrium of the at the at Stradenham. They wore cloaks, and the vocalist Thomas Felberg song/wailed the passages in between scenes.
I wonder if there's a recording of that because I really want to see that now. That sounds really interesting.
Well,
We're going to see some films in a couple of years that have new soundtracks, which is a weird topic to get into. There's a really good soundtrack with Man with a Movie Camera, which you wouldn't think that movie has a good soundtrack, but it is slapping.
so I,
This film though,
I'm sorry.
good.
I looked them up,
You're fine.
and We is underneath the bad reputations list.
I love that. What would you give the Phantom Carriage?
Honestly, I don't want to get two tens in one. That's kind of cheesy. This is a nine.
I gave it a 7. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. It didn't itch something for me.
I'm
I find I'm very particular with silent films.
I'm oddly generous this episode. Mm,
That's fine. I think you've just dealt with 30 years of garbage, Scyther,
yes, this is
and you're
true.
adjusting to films that are not garbage.
My pizza
Oh,
will be.
speaking of garbage, The Sheik.
Ooh. Also, my pizza will be here like in an hour. I know, right?
That's cool.
It takes like there's no damn traffic. How the fuck is it gonna take a damn hour? What do y'all
People are gonna find your location with that information now.
want? I hope they do. We're gonna get some hot lead in their booty cheeks.
No, it's like I hope they do so they can get my damn pizza.
Okay, this is so weird because it's another thing that just literally lined up. Alec Baldwin of the Rust set just confirmed he won't be watching Rust.
I wouldn't either.
Okay, this is I actually don't know. Keep recording. We keep predicting damn things are happening around the same damn time.
Do we? Okay, let me look at what the films were. We might predict something about witchcraft and vampires, so we'll see. The Sheik.
Karen's
This
trending.
is.
Okay, I'm sorry. The sheep.
You're fine. This is a. You're just gonna keep doing that all episode, and I'm gonna get caught off guard every time. Uh, this is a film that is. I hate the plot of this movie. It actively makes me angry. This is a film about a woman who gets kidnapped, kind of, by a sheik. Uh, by the way, written by a guy who understands almost nothing about Bedouins and Arab culture from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
She gets sold to him or gets captured or something, and he essentially forces her to love him throughout the course of the film and saves her at the end because it's a Hollywood film. And it's also revealed that, haha, he's not actually an Arab. He's actually a white guy, which is like in the movie. It's not just revealed through the fact that they showed who casted him. That is just the plot of the film.
So,
I hated this movie.
something I want to say about this film because there is some importance here. So it's not important. The film itself it blows. So you're right, but this film is so important to the jazz age. You're like, how Cipher, how? Because very famous writers such as F. Scott Fitzgerald, uh, he, along with many other writers around this time period, would cite this film, The Black Oxen and the Flaming Youth, as being inspirations, which would be very important for the jazz age as well. Um, I think this film sucks, and I noticed that you actually didn't include the Black Oxen or the Flaming Youth. Also, notably, that this film is the only one of the three to actually survive its for an entirety. So
I didn't include it. I didn't know much about it, and it's hard to research lost films because not many people know about them. Obviously,
yeah.
I yeah, this film makes me uncomfortable, and it takes a lot for a film to make me uncomfortable. You have to show me some torture or something to get me there. This film didn't have to do that, and it still made me deeply unsettled, simply because the subject matter is very of its time. Okay. Fun fact about this film. Look at me. I have fun facts too. The main actor, who I am looking the name up right now, he got driven into stardom because of this project. And I understand why. It wasn't because he was a great actor. It wasn't even because he did anything super crazy. Women just thought he was hot.
So I have two fun facts that, well, one of them actually goes hand in hand with what you're saying. This is one of the few times we will. I mean, this might be the first time odds. We'll see another actor fumble the bag. They regret their choice of not accepting the damn role. Um, so James Kirkwood was originally cast to play the lead, but he said no because they weren't paying him enough.
And then Rudolph Valentino took the role.
Yes, this is perhaps the first time we'll ever see a fumble, which is hilarious. The
Yes, this film, if nothing else, this film did numbers. People loved this film.
It was loved so much, but it might also be the first film to ever be parodied. Debatably, it'll be parodied just the same decade in 1927. She's a Chic, a female parody.
Oh, interesting. We also gonna have to watch the next episode, probably, depending on how we do it. We're gonna have to watch a sequel to this film because people are starting to discover that sequels can be a thing.
Yep.
And it's weird that it took 30 years for people to actually make proper sequels, but
In
maybe they were
fairness,
a mistake to begin with.
who wants to watch Train 2, but training? Wait, I do.
Of course you do, yeah. I gave The Sheik a 4. What'd you give it?
This is where I won't be nice to a film. I'm gonna free. I was
Yeah,
bored.
I do not disagree with you whatsoever.
I do think it's interesting that this film might be the first time to be even parodied in the same decade. It usually takes like a few decades for a parody to pop up in our film.
This film was probably seen as quite cheesy even at the time, I would assume, with that kind of
It was
response.
also super
We're gonna.
easy to make a gender bent version of this.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of prefer the plot from a gender bent angle. Not that it's any better, but
Yeah.
uh, I'm gonna skip Maboose because I did not see it and I don't think you saw it either. So
No.
it's 4 hours. It was kind of hard to fit it in this week. We are going to watch a film, or talk about a film. We're not going to watch it on stream, thank God no. We are about to watch a film that I did find really interesting, even if I didn't love it. Foolish Wives.
Okay, first and foremost, Twitch, we are not trying to be anything negative towards women. Women are great. We empower that shit. I was like, he's fucking lying as the MC. He's like women at all. I love women. I love Asian women.
This is the end. By the way, this is where we get canceled. No,
Or an Asian woman want
yeah,
to hit me up? Oh no.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think this movie is actually. I'm pretty sure it's not intentionally degrading towards women, but I'm sure it's just is because it's a '20s film and it's directed by Stroheim, so I know it is.
So the fellow Stronheim, he was well known for attention to detail. Um, this is
Oh
where
no,
issues happen because he got arrested by the French police.
what did
Yeah,
he do?
because he made money, French money, that was so realistic that the police were like, "Oh yeah, that's a counterfeiting charge right there."
So you're telling me he got too good at being at a prop department?
Yes, and he escaped his charges by telling the judge it was used for the pictures only.
That is that is a problem that you would find in filmmaking. I haven't been in that situation, but I have been in similar situations in my little days in indie film where I've seen stuff like that happen where police have been like specifically with firearms because what you do in film most often if you're an indie production, you'll buy one of like a Nerf gun or something that looks like a gun but is clearly a toy, and then you'll just paint it to look like a real gun. And I'm pretty sure that's illegal unless you register it. So to make it clear, I never did this. It was just people that I worked with. But yeah, people get in trouble all the time because they are too good at the illusion that is film. This film, this is a the plot of this film is a little hard to decipher. It's about a con guy who is stringing a woman along and also trying to marry a woman for her money, a different woman.
Oh,
I believe that's the plot. Did you watch this film?
I watched a bit of it because the title really shut me. Yeah, yes, Cipher, watch this.
I I gave the film a 5. I did not like Foolish Wives that crazy much. I liked the concept and Eric von Stroheim, the main actor, who I believe, yep, he's also the director. Uh, he did an amazing job as the main character. I thought his performance was quite good, and he would be in a lot of French cinema after this. I think, yeah, no, he's in the Grand Illusion. Hell yeah.
This is where one of the fun times where I'm like, yeah, this is a German guy, very German name, France.
Yeah, he was an Austrian American. And he ended up
Well, ladies,
being a star in French film because old Hollywood, or old film, actually, in that case. Either way, this film is kind of depressing, not because of the actual plot, but because this could have been one of those epics, the one of those films that we talk about for years and years and years, and it just kind of isn't.
It's sad, but that's a lot of films and even video games that, well, they're tooted up, or they're made to be potentially the best thing ever, and then they just fumble. That's how it is sometimes.
Yeah, this is a category, yeah, the fumbled masterpiece. I give it a 5. What'd you give it?
Honestly, I'm gonna equal up with you. 5.
Yeah, it was aight. It was mediocre. This one,
Also,
I have a feeling the next one we are going to have different opinions on, and that is perfectly fine.
I'm
We
criticizing
are
you.
talking about. Go ahead. Sorry.
You did not spell it right.
Oh, I didn't use the fancy Swedish characters. Leave me alone. In my
Do
spreadsheet.
you know what Haxon means?
I believe it's something referring to witchcraft.
Well, you're correct. It means bewitch.
Yeah. Next film we're talking about is Haxon, Witchcraft Through the Ages. This is a docudrama?
Yes, as you see, as a heavy Christian, this film offends me. Kidding.
Get out of here, Cypher.
We should cancel people that made Owen are dead.
So this film is an explanation of the historical roots of witchcraft trials, and while also depicting said witchcraft trials in the most gut wrenching ways the filmmakers can come up with. It is also a film about torture implements, and they talk about that quite in depth.
Oh.
Yes, the film ends, and the reason I love this film so much is it talks about, and it reels you in by talking about this really interesting subject, which is medieval witchcraft. And I don't know how accurate the information is today, but as far as I'm aware of the subject, it's pretty accurate as a documentary, which is crazy to think about a 100-plus-year-old film being decently accurate.
So
The
I'm.
interesting thing about this film, sorry, I just one more
Gotcha.
thing. No, it's all good. This film, it goes on about these medieval witches, and then it cuts to what was then the modern day, and the widow of a World War I veteran stealing out of compulsion because of what is very clearly a mental ailment she has gained from her husband being dead.
Yeah.
And it then talks about literally, we used to burn our witches, now we put them in asylums. And that's how the film ends, is just basically saying we need to be kinder to people, specifically women.
So I'm a fella who has studied some pagan stuff, some Wiccan stuff. It's all to me. It sounded pretty much on point. Um, I thought the film was mildly interesting. It kept my attention because I love this kind of stuff. It's so cool. But this is where so there's a fun fact that kind of contradicts how authentic it actually is to a degree. So the
Okay.
director, Benjamin Christensen, he originally planned to write a skit with the help of historical experts, but it fell through because the experts were against the making of the film, because Christians, Catholics, they love that shit.
Because the message of the film is very anti-organized religion and anti, well, I mean not organized religion, but you see what I mean.
Yeah. I will be right back.
Against
You hold the fort.
That's all good. Yes, against it's very much against all the things that were very prevalent in the 1920s. I assume, especially in a Christian Scandinavia. This is I believe, Swedish film, Swedish Danish, depending on how you categorize it. The film overall is just kind of fascinating. I do think if it has any problems, and if I were to knock it down from my original rating, I think the problem with the film is that it is a bit unfocused. It takes a long time to really get to its message, and it kind of meanders at the beginning. It doesn't really know what it's trying to do because the film is broken up essentially into three sections, which are the beginning, the opening, which is mostly really random scraps of information, about witchcraft, about the Middle Ages, about the different theories that witches had, and about theories about witches themselves and how common they actually were. A big theme in this film is people thought they were witches, but witches were probably exceedingly rare. People who actually practiced these things were probably
Well, there was a
exceedingly
knock at the
rare.
door, and a cat fucking rammed its damn head into my door.
I think that is that is cool. I think that they touch on a lot of sorry, not your cat running its head into a door. I don't think that's cool. Poor cat. Um, I don't cancel me, please. Uh, I think it is really interesting that even in this early period, they make such a note of like actual witches or people who actually practice witchcraft were probably few and far between, and the majority of people who were accused of witchcraft were just normal women who were acting out of line for their society, which is to say, acting very, very slightly out of the usual. Uh,
Hmm.
what did you think about the film, Scyther?
Overall, I think this film is a solid 8.7. Just because of how just cool it was. The only thing, it would have been higher. It maybe even a damn 10 if I can just really be sure if it's actually accurate.
That is fair. I think that is the hinging point for me because as far as I know it is, but that's again only as far as I know. I would
Yeah.
have to do more research to fully solidify that. But for me, as the film stands and as I understand it, this is a 10. This is my first 10. I love Haksung. This is a even though I can't always say it correctly because it's a weird title. This is such a cool film, so much fun. The scene with the demons is so entertaining, especially because there are so many so many gags that I am convinced are just masturbation jokes. With the you know that one scene where the demon is like looking at the lady and he's like churning butter aggressively.
Yeah, she had some real
There was
stroke game.
yeah, there was some definite symbology there. I love this film. Next film.
Nanook of the
This one's
North.
gonna be yes, Nanook of the North. This is a film about the Inuit people.
This is a very important film. I usually like to wait a little bit, but this is a fun fact. It is the first documentary to be preserved in the National Film Registry, and is also so it was done so because it was culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.
Yes, there is. This is like just a documentary. There's not too much to say about it. It follows a guy named Nanook, and his daily life as an Inuit. There is some weird stuff about this movie that kind of needs to get touched on. So when this film was made, as far as I'm aware and as far as I've been told, the traditional Inuit lifestyle was already dying out. There weren't actually many people who were still going out into the frigid wastelands and hunting seals. And another thing which is well known about this film, if you ever look into it, the entire thing is staged. There is not a single actual piece of documentary footage in this entire film. Though that being said, a lot of the stuff in the film is probably mostly accurate. Now, obviously, it is a bit fetishizing of the Inuits, like he really plays up how different they are. In which case, people are people, in my opinion. Culture can change a lot, but I think he goes a little bit too far, the filmmaker here.
I agree to a degree. I feel like when comparing a European and an Asian, there will be some overlaps, but then you have to compare a Native American, completely isolated from all the other groups. There will be significant differences. Well, of course, there'll be some overlap, but mostly different. Um,
That's
this
fair.
this is one of those groups where you'll see a lot of difference. Um, I personally believe that this film, you're correct, it is fetishizing a bit, but there is, I don't think this film is entirely accurate as it likes to point itself out to be, especially due to, it's confirmed that in the igloo scenes, it was all staged, all of that.
Yeah,
Um,
there was no actual igloo.
yes. Now, mind you, we do know that they actually make igloos. The problem is the igloo that they were using was just too small because the igloos are not that big. And they're like, "Well, hold on, this is a challenge to make a bigger igloo." The issue was is that it would have been too dark for the actual igloo to in the camera. It's a whole hassle, not worth the effort. Um, the thing I think is very interesting is that this is actually the first case where we see a director fail to properly excuse me, or rather the original copyright holder fail to renew the copyright. This is the first case of this.
So this is one of the first films to go public domain.
Yes. It is a very interesting case where you can find tons of very shitty duplicates or very shitty versions out there.
That is depressing. But yeah, I think this one we're not probably going to spend too much time on. What did you rate Nanook of the North?
A 7. It's
I
important
gave it a 5.
historically, but so historically it's important to me. Well, because but mind you, I'm not an American, duh. But I feel like for those people, it's important. If they're still around, I assume they're still around. It's important.
Yeah, I think it has its merits. It's kind of hard to recommend nowadays because there's not a lot of appeal to a 20s film about Inuit people.
I mean, hey, if you're a college student and you're studying American life, this is for you.
Yeah, early documentation. Let's see. Next up we have this is a big film and one I know you are going to absolutely splooge over. This is Nosferatu, Symphony of Horror.
Hmm.
Now, I would describe the plot of this film. However, the plot is that it's Dracula. This is Dracula.
And it's German.
Yeah, this is just German Dracula. There's not. I understand that there is some creative, like, there was some liberties taken here, especially in Nosferatu's appearance. Or what is it? What is it? Count something or other?
I can't remember the name. It's
Yes.
hitting me.
Morlock, that's his name.
Um.
Count Morlock.
So I said to dish these out because these are super important to mention because they're super stupid, but they're also been funny. So the movie was banned in Sweden due to excessive horror. Can you guess when the ban was lifted?
1994.
72.
Okay, I was a little bit off, but yeah, that is. So this movie was banned in the 60s?
It was banned for a long time. Oh yeah, all known prints and negatives were destroyed. Under the terms of a settlement of a lawsuit by Bram Stoker's widow. The film would resurface, although due to second generation reels. So in other countries, so obviously all the originals are just gone. This is also enhanced stuff.
Yes, so there was a copyright dispute because, as I said, this is just Dracula.
Yep.
There's no, like, and I'm not just being facetious, I'm not just being hyperbolic. This is just Dracula. The whole plot is exactly the same. It's just the names are changed around. I think two of the characters get combined into one woman.
Yes, the director tried to utilize his book, which, in fairness, it did utilize some of his characters from the book, but it's still literally it's a blatant ripoff. Still, even then.
Yeah, it's hard to recommend the plot if you've seen anything Dracula related. However, this is an easy film to recommend in general because not only is it a pretty good adaptation of Dracula, Count Morlock, aka Nosferatu, is probably one of my favorite costumes from the silent era. The way they depict this vampire in such a primitive time in film is spectacular. He is so disturbing looking.
I will give one last fun fact, and I'll be back again. I need to check the window repeatedly. After 102 years, every single exterior are still intact in the cities of Wismar and Lubeck that it was filmed here. All of them still intact.
Oh yeah, the castle that the Count Morlock's castle. It's yes, it is still around. I remember that.
Yep, beer pack.
It is yes, of course. It was filmed on location. A lot of this film was filmed on location. There's some amazing scenes with the person who plays Nosferatu, which I look up right now, the performance is really good. It's creepy. It's foreboding, as I think the word I would use to describe it more than anything. It is a film that simply oozes atmosphere, which I think above everything else, German film is great at in this period, is oozing atmosphere. Max Schreck, that's his name, does a wonderful job as Count Orlok. Did I say Morlock? I keep saying Morlock. It's Orlok. Overall, just a lot of like the sets are great. The way that everything's depicted is great. I just really liked this film. I think obviously it would have done with a hint of originality, but I understand that that is not always possible, especially in this period where a lot of everything's very derivative. I do wish it was a little more concise and the plot threads kind of weaved into each other a little bit more, because it feels as if each arc of the plot, each act, is fully independent of every other act. And that kind of takes away from the experience as a whole. Yeah, that's it's kind of it's kind of where I'm at with Nosferatu. I think it speaks a lot as to the state of film in the 1920s at least. Very slow, very methodical, like I said, atmospheric. Though a lot of times without any substance. And if you were to say, let's say a 30s film is very melodramatic, then a silent film from the 20s is very hollow as a project. Let me see what else. Check the chat. Q. Is this another Murnau film? It is another Murnau film. I think this is the second one we've talked about. F.W. Murnau. Yes! Oh, we had a lot of films we're going to be talking about. Oh, I don't think we. No, we have not covered him yet. F.W. Murnau. No, we have not. Can we Taboo? Oh, that's unfortunate. I think that's all my.
A dick.
You're all fine.
It's still not
Uh,
here.
yeah, it's all good. Listen, you're not you when you're hungry.
That is very
Have a
true.
pizza.
Where are we now? I will have to leave very shortly again.
Yes, just the only thing I was going to ask is, what did you think of Nosferatu?
I thought it was. I don't want to give it another 10, but I'm gonna 10. It's a 10. It's so fucking good. It's not because it's German. It was just so fucking well designed.
Yes, I gave it an 8 personally, but that's also because
It's here.
I'll talk about the next film while we're getting there. Is this mark essential? It is not, so I actually can just talk about it. So yes, I gave it an 8. I thought it was a great film. If you can get through very long, very dry silent films, then this is going to be wonderful. Well, I wouldn't call this dry, but slower by a modern standard films, then you are going to really enjoy Nosferatu and find something a little unnerving about it. Even today, the imagery is eternal. Even if a lot of the old tricks that they used to scare people weren't, I think above all else, the actual execution of Count Orlok stands up the test of time. But next up, we have a little bit less of a historically significant film. This is The Smiling Madame Boudot? Boudet? It's French. I don't know how. I do not speak of the French. And this film, uh, yes, this is a film about a woman plotting to kill her husband and then deciding that maybe that's not a great thing to do. And that's just kind of the whole film. It's not really a huge thing. It's an hour. I thought it was okay. It wasn't an amazing project. It wasn't anything that'll change your life. And it certainly wasn't film of the year. Though I do think it was entertaining. And so, eh, I gave it a 6. I think the performances were quite good. I think that was pretty much the only part that really stood out. Particularly the husband character was pretty good at playing this fumbling oaf who had very little grace and very little tact to him. Though I think the plot is, I don't know, I just don't think it's aged terribly well. Not just because the whole center point of the film is that he likes to point a gun to his head as a gag. I don't really get the joke, but okay. Maybe it's just the differential of time thing. It was all right. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be going back to it, and certainly I don't think I'm ever going to be giving it lofty praises if I watch it again in a year or two. It was a film, and that's all it needed to be. Passable. The next one, it's going to be lovely when Scyther gets back, because I'm so excited for this film. This is Buster Keaton's. Uh, I think this is one of his first feature films. This is certainly the first one that's on my radar. This is Silence is Golden until it's not, yeah. Silent film is difficult to talk about, not because it's bad, but just because it's very inaccessible to a modern audience. And who, I do not blame anyone who cannot get into silent film, and I suspect we're going to get a lot more interest in the series once we get to sound films, just because of how hard it is to watch silent movies. This is Our Hospitality. This is a Keaton film, like I said. This is set during the Civil War, I believe, or right after, seems to be Keaton's favorite era. I don't know if he was just trying to appeal to Civil War veterans, which are an actual group of people in this time, or perhaps it's just that was the time, and that was just one of the things that was popular. Like right now, it's popular to have 80s as a setting because people remember that. But let me see. This was an amazing comedy. It depicts a lot of what I really like about Keaton. It is a film that has his very signature writing style, which is that he is constantly setting things up, and then way later down the line, he knocks them down and actually establishes the jokes or the punchlines. Sorry, is come out, and I really like that. I think that really makes a really fun, chaotic, constantly unraveling plot structure. There are some really good gags in this. If I'm not mistaken, this is the film that features. Yes, this is the film that features Keaton putting a dress on a horse. There's a scene where he swings across a rock or a waterfall. There's a lot of stunts, which is something Keaton is very famous for, is his constant stunts. Mhm. It's all good.
Something else.
Ah.
What do we want?
We're on Our Hospitality by Buster Keaton.
Oh, that one. Ooh. That's when fun facts loaded. I swear to fucking god, that's. I feel like a dick. So I'll be right back. I swear to God.
The pizza man is tormenting him. It's all good. Just has the pizza man stopped tormenting you? Nope. He was right, and now he's gone.
Waste it all. I got fucking yelled at. Holy shit.
I presume by the pizza guy?
No. My cousin.
Fair enough. But
He
sorry to
said
hear that. But
he said
okay.
it's 8 o'clock at night. You're ordering out. Like, you damn right.
But now that the pizza guy's done tormenting you, because oh my god,
Yeah.
he was. Yeah, it's all good. But uh, what is? Oh, you had some fun facts about this film, didn't you?
Yes. Apologies for dipping in and out.
You're all good.
This motherfucker put my shit. So my first fun fact is that so Buster Keaton, you know who he is.
I love him.
Um he was attached to a holdback cable, which was concealed by a river. Interestingly, the cable actually broke and it hurled down the rapids, so he could have died during that filming.
we'll see this a couple times when we talk about Keaton's films. Keaton has seemingly no self-preservation and will regularly throw himself at stunts because whatever, it's for the movie.
I like that attitude. That's the attitude more actors need these days.
I don't know if I want actors to throw themselves towards death, but yes, I get what you mean. I hmm,
Already
I
know.
found I love this film. I love Keaton. I love his work. He's made amazing films. This is 100% one of them. The comedy, as I was talking about while you were gone, is electric. The way he writes setups and setups and setups, and then just constant things happening, new things paying off. It is wonderful.
The thing I actually like a lot about this film, because Keaton is like iconic. He just is. I'm not, mind you, I'm not his biggest fan because I haven't really watched much of his shit for real. Um, I just think that he is a person that should be highly respected. He's just not. It's just this is me. He's not really talked about as he should, like as much as he should be.
I think it's because he's an old silent comedian, and really not many people pay attention to the silent comedians. And when they do, it's almost always Chaplin, because
True.
Chaplin was by far the most popular. If you look at it at the time, Keaton was the third most popular, followed by Harold Lloyd and of course Chaplin. Nowadays, he is the second most popular, as not many people really care about Lloyd, since his works were a lot less spectacular.
Mm.
I am glad that he's getting more recognition than he did initially because he was an amazing filmmaker.
The thing I will say that is very intriguing to me is that it, how do I say this? It's one of the first cases that we'll see an actual rescue queue, like rescue crew, be used on a set.
Oh,
Yes, because the river and he almost
uh,
died.
that makes sense. That is terrible. Unlike the film, personally, I gave it an 8 or 9. Sorry, that was looking at the film above it. Yeah,
Hmm,
I gave the film a 9. What'd you give it?
a 7.9.
Okay, not
So
too far off.
I do actually have a reason as to why it's not higher.
Hmm.
It's because I feel like this is not one of his greater starring roles. It's good. It's really good, but I feel like there's something out there that's deserving of a 10 or a 9 or whatever.
There's a lot of other good Keaton films, and I think your 10 will probably be reserved for The General, which is coming up in a few years, and is Chef's Kiss.
Little,
Next up is a film that I frankly do not remember too much: The Covered Wagon.
may I do a quick little segue? Just a quick little
Go
rant.
ahead.
My
Go
my
ahead.
my name driver was fucking high, like really fucking high, and he didn't come to my house. He was going to my damn neighbor. Said, "Hey, over here." Yeah.
I've had that a lot with delivery drivers. Yes, they will. I've had people go to the house next to mine. Like I've had people ring the wrong door. It's a whole thing, and that
So
is rough.
something I will say is because it's very annoying, but okay, it's 8 o'clock. I get it. It's a bit late to order out anything. But I'm like, man, I had the money. It's like not that late. If like if I was doing shit at like 10 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, sure, you yell about it. But come on, man, it's not that bad.
Late night munchies. Okay, listen, I'm a stoner. I get it. Late night munchies. You do be tempting me though. Though I shouldn't. So, next up, like, yeah, the covered wagon. This is a western. Oh, there's the poster again.
The best westerns.
No, it is not the best. Oh, you're talking about the hotels. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying this was the best western. I was going to slap you. This was kind of just a generic western, as far as I can remember. It was all right. It was silent, which is weird for westerns. There weren't a lot in this era, obviously, other than like the Great Train Robbery.
I do have a very lovely fun fact.
Oh,
So, to get enough covered wagons for the film, they had a call from California, and yes, they called out always been old ass families from California. Just hey, do you guys still have your family still like ancient ass with like fucking wagons and like yeah, they gave you let them use it.
Imagine you have this ancient thing that no one cares about anymore, and some producer calls up like, "Hey, can we borrow your old wagons for our movie?"
If you think
Yeah,
think about it for a second, like that time period, like between the wagon gold rush and shit, wasn't that fucking long ago? So
no, I was talking about it when when I was discussing art hospitality. Well, the pizza man was tormenting you, and it's weird to think about a time where you could actually make a movie directly to appeal to Civil War veterans, which is just wild. Or it's that for our hospitality specifically, but for this one, it's weird to think that there were people who were just around during the Wild West and could just lend their expertise,
that shit's actually
especially
fucking
since they've been
funny.
dead for so long.
I do have a very lovely fun fact. Is that did you know that the creator of Godzilla actually lists this as his favorite film?
I have lost a small amount of respect because I don't get it. I mean, maybe it was just like right time, right place kind of thing, but I didn't love this film. I don't know about you. If you, I just thought it was all right.
It was literally just all right. I mean, if you like love these like kind of in films, I can see how it could be your favorite. I guess.
Yeah, if you like westerns, this isn't a bad way to look at the very old history of westerns. This one might be another one we can skip because La Rue. I haven't seen it. I did not have time, and when I was first doing my film journey, I did not watch this film. It's a French film. It's probably all right. It looked all right. It is also 4.5 hours. I'll
So
get there.
I'm a
Maybe
professional
one day
boy.
we'll do an episode where I just watch all the things that I missed, and we can talk about those. But
So
next up is a really good comedy.
safety last.
Yes, this is very iconic.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I had to ask. It's so important. Did you really put the, like in the order when it came out, or like did you just like oh wait safety last? I'll put it on last.
Uh, so I get a lot of my film. So typically, how I do it by year is I go to filmsite.org. Great site for anyone who wants to do research on these things. Uh, and I just list them in the same order that the person who runs filmsite.org, who is Tim Dirks, that's his name. I put it in the same order that he lists them in, and I believe he lists them by alphabetically. Pretty sure.
Hmm.
And then obviously, firstly by year.
Okay.
And it just so happens that this is an S film, though I am now noticing that safety last. Uh, this is a Harold Lloyd comedy. He is the that third silent comedian I mentioned. He
so
is he's more so known for his plots than in the other two silent comedians.
what I'm hearing is basically he'll be my favorite because I prefer plots over any real gag or you know.
Yes. He also has the most iconic shot of the silent era, which is that one where he's hanging off of a clock. Uh, that trick, if you see the film, this comedy, the plot is, I believe, Lloyd is working at a department store and is trying to trick the woman he wants to impress into thinking he's like a manager. Comedy ensues, and he has to climb up the clock tower. It's great, but that specific theme, or that specific element.
Did he inspire that whole damn trope?
Perhaps I don't know. It might be in something earlier, but he definitely made it. He definitely popularized it with this film because I'm pretty sure this film was very popular. The way they did that, where he's hanging off the clock, it's a camera trick. Literally, all they did was they positioned that clock above another rooftop. He literally there's rooftop about 10 feet below him. Maybe not even that much. It's pretty shallow, and there's a mat in case he falls.
I'm glad you mentioned the mat because it's so important to talk about this fun fact. Lloyd first tested the safety precautions for the clock stunt by dropping a dummy onto the mattress below. The dummy bounced off and plummeted to the street below.
Oh, that is kind of terrifying, actually. No, you would not catch me dead doing that stunt after seeing that.
I would never do that shit.
Again, it's that thing we keep seeing where it's like, what is it with the silent era and people just being so gung ho about plummeting potentially to their death?
For the bitches and money.
And fame, yes. Let me see. What did I give this? What did you think of Safety Last?
Honestly, it was okay. That's gonna be very over exaggerated. This is me just tooting the horn into the creator. It was so innovative for its time.
Very. I can agree with that. Harold Lloyd was considered one of the great silent comedians for a reason.
The only thing that I feel like it was truly missing was uh, what can I say? That was like just missing for real. Mm,
There's just a certain, as you might say, since we've been watching a lot of French films, that certain je ne sais quoi.
yeah.
It was missing a certain element, and I can see that. I personally gave it a 9.
mm. I will give it an 8.
That is fair. And with that, we have rounded out the films of the early 20s. You can see that we are already slowing down as films get more numerous. And it even took about the same amount of time as it usually does to talk about films. So, whew.
Prepare for.
What did you think of the early 20s in film?
So what do I think? Well, obviously, these are all superior to any film we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I think personally, I think everything here is steps and steps and steps above everything else. We are starting to see filmmakers come into their own, and we are starting to see filmmakers really, really form styles and genres, whereas everything was just kind of a so so drama.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing, hey, here's an interesting idea, here's an interesting idea, and not only are these interesting ideas, they are executed with actual funding and actual writing and production behind them. So we're not just dealing with weird concept films. We have art, and I think it is fair to start calling these films art.
It makes me question that what is the first film that has like zero budget, nothing at all, but it's still all fucking like high quality. It's some real good shit.
Yeah, what is that first really good indie film? I think you could probably point to a chaplet or like a silent comedy because those often had very little budget,
Yeah. Mm.
simply because they were easier to make and focus a lot on their talent. I think this is a great era, and film is only going to keep getting better for a while. We are going to hit a rough patch in 1928 and 29, but I think we're going to see that film continuously changes and evolves and improves, and I'm really excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
So we can actually talk about music for the first time here. I actually bothered to put together a full list.
I do want to segue this quite briefly.
Yeah,
The
go
one
ahead.
thing I don't like, I'm truly looking forward to the most is when we reach into the not the well the internet age to a degree
Mm-hmm.
is the first video on the net. Now that is
Ooh.
up for debate what that one is, but there's a lot of contenders, obviously. But we will of course view it through multiple ways, but the obvious way is by on the social the social site itself. For example, YouTube has the zoo video. It's so famous, so popular.
But there was obviously probably some video shared over forums or something before that.
Yeah, and the thing that I I think is really just intriguing is how the internet has changed so much. And we actually already saw some old fucking forums and all, like all the old chat rooms where you're like promoting these fucking dick pills and shit a long while back.
Yeah, the it is crazy to think. I think this really comes in line with what we're talking about film is that times change so quickly, and it's I guess a lot of us can, by a lot of us I mean me, can look at history as quite stagnant until recently. But what you find is that things are always changing and they're always changing so dramatically that it just looks really stagnant to us because we just can't comprehend the amount of things that are changing all at once. And we've seen that with film. I'm sure you can recognize as someone who's just gotten into this how much things have changed since the 1890s, and we say it every episode, but God, things are different.
Yes, things are extremely different between like the 1899 all the way up until 1923. It is very wild difference. Now, obviously, it's not close enough to say, oh yeah, this is basically identical to fucking modern. I think we'll be like into like the 50s and 60s where we even can say, oh yeah, this is pretty similar. And even then, it's still
Yeah,
not.
I think the first real decade of where you can say that the film industry is mirrors our own is the 70s, is when you really start seeing, you see blockbusters, you see nerdy films, you're seeing horror. And until we get there, we're still going to feel in an era, we're still going to be in an era where everything feels really strange,
Yeah,
really alien from us.
I would
And I think a
think.
great example of things feeling alien is the music of
Mhm.
the 1920s.
Give me one sec
Uh,
to toss away the fucking boxes, otherwise I'll get yelled at extremely loudly.
that'll be fair.
Recycling is
That,
so
that's
important.
recycle kids. Wait, don't recycle children.
Oh shit.
So for music, we haven't really talked about music very much. We'll talk about it when Scyther gets back a little bit more in detail. But we're starting to get to the first period where I would say that we can cover music in depth. Now, I'm probably not going to talk about every single song, but we can definitely talk about some highlights. And I think it'll be. I think this is the first time where music is actually listenable. Now, a lot of it isn't, but a lot of it will be. And we're getting like last episode with film, we are now getting to the point where music, where it is independent and very much its own beast. Because before, I don't know, a lot of it was just classical music, and I don't know about all of you, but I have just never been into lengthy classical music. It is just I not my thing. That's really all that is. So wait.
Well, I returned. That is my last
Welcome back.
departure. I promise.
It's
All right,
all
music.
good.
I
Yes.
should do have a favorite on this list.
Yes. So we've listened to quite a few songs. I think we're getting to the point where if anyone watching this, either live or in the future, wants to see the list that we're using for these, I will start working on getting those to a point where I can start just providing them. But we listened to some music from the 1920s, the early 20s, obviously, since that's what we're covering. Uh, what did you think of early 20s music? Since we pretty much ran the gambit.
Superior, just superior.
You're saying it beats modern music, Scyther?
It does. You cannot tell me, Oz, but this doesn't just blow everything that currently exists out of the fucking water.
Is that a 20 song?
It is, from at least what I can tell. So I did the search and it said 1923. So I'm like, okay. Oh
Oh,
no
hell
no no
yeah.
no 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 no! This is a fucking parody.
Uh, yeah, I was like, I don't think Frank Sinatra's a 20s artist, really.
No, he is not. It's a parody.
Yeah. We did listen to a lot of weird stuff. There is a song, uh, I will just say it right now. It's called I've Got the Yes We Have No Bananas Blues. And I think I nearly had a stroke trying to read that.
So I had a few favorites from this whole time period. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
swinging on the lane.
Oh, hell yeah.
California, here I come.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, two Black Crows.
Hell yeah. Anything by Al Johnson, who is one of the big music artists of this time. We're actually going to see him in film in a couple episodes, but he is he's a big figure in music, and weirdly enough, he is a man who regularly did blackface, but was a huge proponent of ending segregation.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't have said I like two Black Crows when you said that.
Yeah, yeah, that was going to be a thing. A famous story about Al Johnson. Did I say his name right? Yes, Al Johnson this is one of my favorite stories. I read it just researching the guy. He had discovered in a random newspaper that a couple of people had been refused service to a restaurant because of their race. He then contacted these people out of the blue, offered to take them to a nicer restaurant, and then threatened anyone who didn't let them in, saying that he would punch them in the nose.
Based.
Yeah, no, that is the first thing that comes to my head when I read that story is based. He was also, again, despite being a guy who constantly did blackface, this is the weird, complicated nature of the act in the 1920s, was actually an advocate for studios to cast actual people of color to play roles that are of their own race.
I like that.
He was one of the big proponents of stopping just having white actors play black people, which is good for him, good for Johnson. Uh, I don't know how I feel about the weird vaudeville stuff that he did, but fair enough. And his music is some of the best of this time. We also are seeing some of the early amazing instrumental jazz music. Paul Whitman is a really good early proprietor of this music. I'm going off. I'm a music nerd.
I'm sorry. The moment we got into music, we have broken history with music literally this fine day. Kendrick Lamar becomes the first rapper in human history to be sued over a diss track.
we keep
It is
we
Drake. Drake did it.
Of course it was Drake. Of course. And we have just dated this stream again. Look at us.
We are
No,
breaking
it's fine.
history. All right, what's next? World War III? Can we get that in here too?
Gotta win that bet. I It's hard to cover individual songs because again they're like 2 minutes. It's music. overall, I thought I have listened to a little bit of each decade. This is
Mm.
listenable, finally.
What I think we can do next time is
Hmm.
we can start ranking these, you know, how good it is from a decade. Instead of being like individual, obviously.
That's fair.
Is this decade better than that one? This decade is obviously better than the last two decades that came before it, obviously.
Yes, and we can start doing that with individual years once we start doing individual years, which I think should be probably not next episode, but the one after that.
Yeah, I will say this because I'm a very biased Nilly. Is I think any music after the fucking mid 70s is just shit in comparison to everything that came before. I said
That's your opinion, and I think
it.
we're going to get into a lot of opinions with music because, well, music is, in my opinion, the most subjective of all mediums.
Yup. The I dare somebody to tell me that fucking throwing a damn piece of fucking banana and some duct tape is fucking art. I dare you to tell me that's art. I will shoot you. Wait, hold on, hold on.
All the
Shoot
yeah,
me a damn
hey,
Nerf
hey,
gun.
Twitch, that was the figure of speech.
Shoot me a damn Nerf gun. Yeah, fuck shit.
Yeah, we do not condone violence. We have never condoned violence.
Uh, it's it's just you can't tell me fucking duct tape a piece of fucking banana on a fucking wall's art. You cannot tell me that's fucking art. I can't.
Technically, it is, but under
I will
any
pee on you.
practical option. Okay, the threats have gotten from violent to strange.
I am very strange to begin with.
That's fair.
I
Uh,
can't wait for doing something.
yeah.
Make a damn wiki about this same series. This is on November 25th. Cypher threatened to piss on Oz.
That is why I live in eternal fear. Uh,
Don't worry, it's Batman is gonna come and save you.
I hate that you find these things. Back to the music of the early 20s. Yeah, I think this is definitely an era where we're seeing a very sharp improvement. I think even though film takes a dip in the 30s, I think music largely keeps improving. As we are starting to see actual jazz, not like proto jazz, not like weird, is this ragtime, is this jazz? It's jazz. And it is glorious. Like I
Oh,
said, Paul Whitman. I love jazz personally. I am an old man, even though I'm not. I love I love the old people music. And seeing some of these names start to pop up, I was already into a lot of these artists. It is wonderful. I would say for this period, I would give this period in music a solid 7. I think there's still a lot of
seven
improvement to
is
go though.
fair. So my favorite of things would be the blues, of course, which would of course help inspire jazz alongside with like ragtime, spiritual hymns and marches or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
I think the blues is just so damn good. The South,
I
one of the best
think
things from South.
So you said your favorite song was "Swinging Down the Lane."
Yes,
Yes, my favorite was oh, there's a lot of them. One second. It was with the India one. Song of India. That's what it was. I love Song of India.
you know it's kind of weird, but song parodies have existed for as long as songs have existed. But movie parodies didn't happen until like, I don't know, man. I'm not really parodying this. Oh yeah, gender bent. Never mind.
Yeah, fair enough. I do like yeah, we have two songs that I think are referencing each other. There's a song by Billy Jones called Yes We Have No Bananas, and then there's I've Got the Yes We Have No Bananas blues, which is just strange. Uh but I think that's kind of it for music. There's still not too much going on for a full episode. I think once we get to the 50s, there will need to be full episodes for music because, oh my goodness, there's so much happening.
Yeah. We'll get to that point where we'll see certain, of course, right now and for a bit longer, movies will dominate the entire talk of these. But we'll get to music, which will start dominating, and out of nowhere, we'll get to video games, where I will be cooming.
Oh, yeah. We both will because we are both huge nerds as well as tabletop games. That will
Yes.
also be.
I am so tempted to buy the Atari collection just so I can have some video games in the background.
Hell yeah. I think yeah, that sounds good. There as for board games of the 1920s, as usual for this segment,
There shouldn't be that
there's
much.
there's not a lot to talk about. I believe Sorry came out finally.
Let's take a gander. Wikipedia, hit us with some of the bangers of the 20s. Oh, we do have a banger. It's not a banger
Sorry.
at all. It's Capablanca Chess.
There's also Bridge.
Yep. So we actually had to talk about this about mods for games. One thing I think is interesting is that technically mods have existed as long as games itself have existed. Because there's variants of games that already exist. They're technically mods if you think about it.
Yeah, no, I mean when you really think about it, a board game is just or a video game is just like a board game, but the computer does all the math for you.
Yep. Um.
And renders graphics. I think so. If you want to look at it like that, I think the first mods would definitely be just people finding out ways to do card games,
Yep.
playing card games. That is.
I think it is super cool. But yeah, Capablanca chess. I'm actually gonna screen share this because there's no point in screen. It's just chess, but like different.
it's it's chess, but another variant. We talked about this last episode. There's like a million different versions of chess, and they're all the same, and no one plays them anymore because everyone pretty much just plays regular old Western European chess,
Very true.
which
Mm.
is kind of depressing because honestly, I'd love to play some of these weird variants of chess.
So, you know what? Before we end anything off, I think it's a brief view into the future, in a way.
Yeah.
Let's briefly talk about the awesome dispute about which game is the best selling in the entire world. It could be a
Oh, is
board
that something
game
you've been
or
looking into recently?
yes, because people love to cite that it is Mojang. It's Mojang's Minecraft. But there is evidence to say that that's not the case at all. In fact, it's another game that is from many decades prior.
Oh,
Tetris.
there's a good argument to be made with Tetris. Here's the thing, right? That gets complicated. In our modern age, ports aren't really ports. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
I buy Minecraft for my phone, it's pretty much it is actually the same game as if I bought it for Windows PC. If I bought Bedrock Edition, they can even connect to each other. But then so obviously it makes sense to categorize all those sales as the same game, right?
Yes.
But then you get to Tetris, and Tetris was made for a bajillion different consoles, and they are all vastly different.
Yeah. So the only evidence we have that Tetris outsold Minecraft is just because the Tetris company kept a really good record of all their shit. They allege, which I mean, their records say it, so I guess it's true. They've sold a total of 520 million copies of Tetris.
And again, I guess it depends on how liberal you want to be with it all being the same game. I would say the NES and Game Boy versions are essentially the same, unless you're one of those crazy people that tries to beat it.
Yeah. If we refer to Wikipedia, it'll say Minecraft with a lovely 300 million copies sold, followed by GTA and Wii Sports.
That doesn't count. It came with the console.
Into the count of the hall. Um, I do think if Rockstar decided to milk GTA 5 for a bit longer, they could just outsell Minecraft in about another 5 years, maybe. Why not?
I cannot believe they're still writing GTA 5.
It's so silly. This is gonna be a whole rant I'm about to do. I'm doing. Yep, it's too late now. I'm ranting. It's because every damn game dev got fucking lazy. They had a bit of success and they're like, yeah, innovation, nah, fuck innovation. It doesn't matter. Let's just milk the fucking people. Because the people don't fucking matter. They'll keep eating their damn slop. And guess what? We do it anyway. They're fucking sheep. Fucking sheep ass capitalist fucking bullshit.
Oh no, this is turning into a political stream. Hurry, end it.
But you'll see me a bit more. Not for a long time. Obviously, we'll get there around the 2000s. Well, actually, before that, because TRPGs and their religious bullshit. Um, But for video games itself, you won't see me really rant until the 2010s. I'm gonna get really in it.
Well, luckily we'll have to wait like a year and a half to get there. So
Yeah. Oh, those 2010s. Oh, those bastards. They ruined every. No, wait, sorry, name the 2020s. Just EIE, motherfucker.
on that note, if you made it to the end of this rambly stream, we really do appreciate it. We glad you had fun with us. Uh, and if you want to do all the social media stuff, the liking and the following and the subscribing and all that nonsense,
Oh, shit.
that's just a bonus.
You know, you just reminded me. Please give me a link to your the social that you use a lot more than the one you currently have.
The letterbox. Yes, I will put my. Wait, am I logged in? I am logged in. I can just put it in the chat. 1 second. If any of you want to see my reviews as I am writing them, also you can see all the reviews that I've done before this. Oh wait, no, you need to put the link. Let me send it to you because I am. There you
Oh
are.
wow! I can't believe I missed this. I keep missing their fucking comments when they do it. Kizzy said, "Silence, it's golden until it's not." Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, silent film is. I go back and forth that a good silent film is amazing, but a bad silent film is unbearable.
So I just plugged all of our shit. That is the YouTube channel for Cursed Curator and the damn letterbox. So
Yes,
with that out of the way, once again, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. Woohoo!
hell yeah.